Let's put the lesson in the comments. I've learned that putting the lesson in the comments still doesn't. So scratch. Divine Rising. Blessed be to your day. I posed a question in my... Posed a question. I was thinking about it. The question in building. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. If you didn't look on my page, I asked the question. It's a simple, every time that we're doing things when it comes into the healing process, the key is making it the simple question that can open up so many doors, that opens up so many doors. The question that I asked today, or that I posed today, was to the ladies, to the goddesses, to the queens. When it comes to your masculine energy, what is it providing and protecting? What is it protecting and providing a space for in your inside of self? What that means, what is it protecting? For the fellas, for the gods, for the kings, for the brothers, wherever you at on top of your, remember today's Wednesday. We understand that in order to take into the flow of today or the wind of the day, we got to understand the night before. That means we got to get into that aspect of our darkness. So I posed the question to the fellas, what is your feminine energy nurturing and guiding? What is your feminine energy nurturing and guiding inside of this space when it comes to self? The reason that these questions are very important are because it helps us understand if we're living inside of, remember this week we talked about chaos is order, but there's two sets of orders to that chaos which you're ensuing. So you're looking at yourself inside of your space and you're asking yourself the question, am I in synchronization? That means I'm in a state of growth. That means I'm in a state of being uncomfortable. Or am I in a state of prolonging? Remember, ownership without accountability is simply possession. It's simply the possessiveness. It's simply staying within. It's simply something as simple as saying to the aspects of things being in sync with you. You can have synchronization and compatibility because it's based on growth. Or you can have compatibility in the aspects of prolonging, in the aspects of complacency. That means you're still trying to remain in the same line of groove with yourself, that you're not making the true investments. I always talk about the aspects of your track record, looking back at your track record. I've dropped the videos. They're all on my YouTube channel. In the lectures, we're always talking about the aspects, as y'all coming in, breaking this in. As you're sitting there thinking to yourself, you're thinking about synchronization and everything being in sync. Okay, cool. Like, I give an example as we're letting it fill up. I'll give you an example. Think about this example right here. You can be seeing multiple angel numbers, 555s, 1111s, 777s, and all these numbers popping up over and over and over again. You can get excited or infatuated that that means I'm on the right path. What are you doing when you see that number? What are you doing when you see 555? What are you doing when you see 777 and 1111 and 1212? What are you doing at that moment? What are your thoughts? Where are your emotions at? What are your actions doing? See, you got to understand that in order to come into synchronization, you have to set the terms of your program. You got to know where you're at. So when I asked that question, and we're going to get into it today when we're talking about this prolonging effect, going to do some live reading, support the lesson. You don't have to get a reading, support the lesson, because this is how we grow. Going into that space, when I asked the ladies, the goddesses, the queens, in that aspect, what is your masculine energy providing and protecting inside of the space when it comes to your emotions. That means when it comes to your masculine presence, remember the masculine is the builder, the enforcer. So the masculine is that independent, you being independent, that it's the image of that identity. The image of that identity. What is that protecting when it comes to your emotional state or the aspects of your inner child? What are you protecting inside of your darkness? What are you feeding inside of your darkness? What have you not dealt with inside of your darkness? And then that helps you understand that, remember, from the darkness, the feminine aspect is what you're attracting. So when you're visualizing things inside of your space, when you're visualizing, it's based in the subconscious. The unresolved, if you're doing that work, that unresolved sets the tone of your space. That unresolved is what you are visualizing from. So what you see outside of your space is what you're attracting, is based on what you're visualizing up here. So if you got an unresolved aspect you have an unresolved aspect in the aspects of emotional intelligence, how you've been treated, the things of that nature, where is it feeding from? Where are you getting that visual from? Because even in that case of that space, you got to remember, you're living up here and your shit's on autopilot. This is what I mean. This is what we mean by presence. For the fellas, when it comes to the aspects of your emotions and in that emotional spot, what is being nurtured and guided inside of that space? You're thinking about it from a hurt aspect, that wound, that maternal wound, what your mom did to you, the line of these effects. You keep attracting this, you keep attracting something based on what we call strength. But remember, strength or that strength or that authority is based on vulnerability. So if you're attracting into a lot of spaces, think about what you tell yourself, how you learn and your emotions were shut down. Remember, your emotions was always, we were taught from young ages to shut down our emotions. That emotional guideline, I give you something to cry about. Nah, just suck it up. Or for the ladies, it's your fault, or guilt or aspects. A lot of us in these spaces, we're just prolonging our guilt. You're prolonging a reason to prove that you're not guilty. You're prolonging a reason to prove that your aggression is valid. You're prolonging a reason. This goes on both ends. You're prolonging these reasons of that program that you stay within in order to stay within your space. So now when you're thinking about synchronization, the shit falling out is going to lead you naturally back to yourself. You got to understand, the things that are in synchronization with you are leading you back to facing yourself. The things that are based on prolonging are taking you away from yourself. That means the tone is always deflecting. The tone is always distracting. The tone is always to set the feel good. The tone is always to keep moving away from yourself. Therefore, you create this space and you want to fill this space. So the unknown aspect of trying to fill this space, guess what it becomes when you're trying to fill that space? Remember, the unknown, you project into the unknown that of which you're already visualizing, the fear. That fear, that guilt, that regret, that doubt. I can't do this because of this. I could have did this time. I could have did this. What stopped you from doing it? Everything is going to naturally fall into the sink based on the new knowledge that you take in. You ain't got to worry about removing anything from your space. You ain't got to sit there and say every 15 minutes that you ain't got to sit there and sing and proclaim that you're going to cut shit out of your life every 15 seconds. Once you start taking in that new information, that automatically sets you peace, peace, peace. Once you start taking that information, it automatically sets the tone in your space anyway. Automatically is going to set the tone anyway. Once you start taking in this new information, once you really start expounding past yourself, because I use an example. I remember I used to say I love learning, but I had to understand my learned behavior. That learned behavior of learning was simply repeating. When we think about learning or subjecting yourself to something, it's usually based on repetition. That means how many times you can do it. That's why every time it comes time for you to change, every time it comes time for you to actually invest into a change, there's a process. The old process that you got into with yourself that prolonged things was gather information and repeat it over and over and over again. But remember, faith without works is dead. So you just kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating it over and over again. But where was the accountability? Remember the steps. You kept repeating the same move, but not looking at your steps. So your steps were not in alignment. See, if my steps are not in alignment with the moves that I'm making, there will always be some distortion. There will always be the guilt. What gets triggered? The guilt pops up. The doubt pops up. That lack, grand rising, that lack pops up. The same things continuously pop up. And until I'm taking that level of assessment, I cannot come into a state of synchronization. I can't apply anything. I'm gathering information, but how am I applying it to myself? What is it bringing up? What is this information that I'm tapping into or reading? What does it mean about me? How can I expose it to myself? That becomes the aspect the question that I've asked. When you think about that question, whenever you're taking in information, fellas, you're taking it into your emotions. So are you doing it based on trying to stay angry? That means use something as simple as, let's use something simple. You can sit there inside of that space, and since you are used to acting out through anger in an unhealthy manner, you used to act out in an angry manner, every bit of information that you read about the white man, you're going to use it based on, see, that's why I'm angry. They won't let us do this. They won't let us do that. They won't let us do this. They won't let us do that. But in reality, when you really sit there with that information and you're looking at the aspect that you create things and you're reacting based on behavior, your emotions, that's a result of my behavior. They always locking us up. How are you locked up? What blockages have you not dealt with? Because eventually you're going to get to that point to be locked up externally. So this is accountability. Ladies, we sit in these spaces with ourselves of we have an idea of what we want to be in sync with, but what are the lessons that you're feeding from? What visualization are you feeding from? If you got that wound present, you still got that wound from the lack of a father, your mother's boyfriend, your mother, whatever fraternal figure was inside of your life. And now that was when your innocence felt threatened. Your value and your worth was taken down. You tried to go tell your mother what was happening to you inside of your life, Grand Rising. You tried to go tell your mother what was going on inside of your life. And then she made you feel guilty about it. You living in that. You now live in that. Now every masculine presence, because it's just not in the aspects of men, because I'm going to give you the masculine presence. I don't fuck with women because they talk too much. That is you acknowledging. Therefore, that's the knowledge. Therefore, that's the masculine aspect. So now now you are enforcing that. That's why I don't talk to chicks. But now you got to check your own actions and your own track record. It ain't my fault that her man wanted me. It ain't her fault that her man saw something better in me and he was around me all the time. You ain't taking accountability. Because you living out that old cycle, Grand Rising. You living out that same cycle about your mother running around with all those men. And why all the men was at the house. You never understood why. You never understood that. And since you have not defined that or searched that information with yourself, guess what you're repeating? You repeat the unresolved. The unresolved will always put you in a state with yourself of playing out over and over and over again. So it makes you feel like you're doing more work than you actually are. Now you're sitting in that space, you're doing work, but you're not doing any work. Because remember, everything that you learned in the learned behavior is just repeating something. So the moment that the repeat comes to a certain point, and then it's supposed to be, ooh, something comes from this. Now you're sitting in that space with yourself. Since it's not a true investment, what happens? Because that investment takes responsibility. Everything that you're trying to get into goes into the aspects of what are you trying to build? Where are you building from? What foundation are you building from? That's what I was talking about earlier in the week. And we talked about it in the podcast, talking about your table. That aspect of your old foundation. That old foundation. Based on guilt, regret, getting what you want by any means necessary. Living inside of that space by any means necessary. You got things based on that, based on a pattern. But you got to remember, everything got to remain inside of that pattern. So you speaking the spell that niggas are not shit. All because your mom told you lies about your dad. Every fucking time. Or she made you feel guilty for you trying to tell her that her boyfriend was looking at you the wrong way. That's what you operate in now. And if you have a daughter, you're telling your daughter those same things. Your results. You're telling her results from your effects. Yeah, men aren't that smart. Men aren't this. Men aren't that. I guess I gotta be my own man. Because I'm smart. I'm a good person. I deserve this. But where's the work? External shit? Same thing with the fellas. Same thing with us. We'll do that shit all the time. You feel powerless because you still stuck on the physical. So you feel powerless without money. You feel powerless without something external. But you're not understanding how these things sink in. What are these things prolonging? If you sat down for 365 days, I've talked about that fiscal year. If you sat down right now and you actually I've said this before, for every year of your life, it can take 6 months if you acquire the correct disciplines inside of your work. You can knock out a year in 6 months. Why do you think that almost every program that deals with credit scores, deals with getting your credit right, deals with knocking shit off your court cases, why you think that shit they along that shit to a 6-month process? Because that's a reflection. See, when we're thinking about these levels with ourselves, when you got to think with yourself, you got to think about the reflections of everything inside of your space is exactly where you at. There's a difference between when you graduate, once you understand, you got so used to the physical aspect of needing money, so you can get used to, I'm getting taxes. I'm getting a stimulus check. I'm getting these aspects. And the only way that you can continuously get that is based on what you're investing it into. That's why it always seems to come to you. I don't know how many times while I was in school, there's motherfuckers going to school right now just for refund checks. Still doing that same hustle. Ain't learned anything, ain't gained anything, but they prolonging. Yeah, man, I go to school to get the check. They give me the check. I go to class a little bit. Just re-register for some classes. And that's that hustle. I use that money to go do this, and this. All right. When are you going to upgrade? See, it takes accountability to upgrade. That's your comfort zone. That's prolonging. Because if you go to school, okay, you got some credentials. You can use them credentials and you can start an LLC with all the money you're trying to bring in. Man, you hustling shirts and shit. Okay. I talked about this in a podcast episode in like last season. What I was talking about during that, when everybody was sitting there and everybody looting and rioting, and you got in there and you got a bunch of fucking TVs and you sold TVs to the hood. If you were around the right circle, you would have took that money from the TVs that you sold or the clothes that you boosted and went online and looked up a dropship site. Tag it to your LLC. Now you ain't got to have the inventory of the TVs inside of your house. So now you ain't got to worry about the TVs are inside of your house. Somebody going to come rob you because you got something already for it. So when we're talking about these aspects of coming into yourself, coming into synchronization, this is what I mean by that discomfort. This is what I mean by that discomfort. This is what I mean by that plan. This is what I mean by why it's important to have that, to even have that. We're not even talking about a plan. We're talking about the blueprint. What is your original schematic? What is how are you wired? If you don't understand how you wired, you don't know what the fuck you keep bringing into your space. You don't know where your heart is or what you're doing with the things inside of your space. You just keep doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting to be seen, and that becomes an accomplishment. So the moment that somebody sees you do something, oh, I feel accomplished. See, they notice me for my shit. But now now you find yourself, it's harder to maintain that because they made you feel happy. They made you feel happy. So now the exposure begins. Now you're in a state of exposure. The exposure starts the breaking away of entitlement. Exposure keeps you in entitlement and expectations. So since they notice you for that, this is why in the beginning of a lot of relationships, friendships, at the job, think about it like this. The same way at your job, in the beginning of your job, you sit there and will go hard in that state of infatuation is the same way you do inside of your friendship. The same way you do inside of your relationship. The infatuation due to instant gratification that leads you to only do it up to that point. But eventually when this is where emotional intelligence comes in, your emotional intelligence with yourself, your energy and what energy are you just simply transmitting or transmuting, because they're two different things. You're transmitting from guilt, you're transmuting from regret, you're transmuting from, I've done this so long, I was the best woman to I was the best man to every woman, and they weren't ready for me. I was the best ride or die chick for every woman, man, and they weren't ready for me. What does that say about you? What does that say about you? See, that honesty is actually yourself. What does that say about you? Because you sat here and said everybody wasn't ready for you. Okay, cool. That sounds good. That surface. But why do you depend so heavily if you are truly in that aspect? And we're going to get into the circumstance in the next part. When you're in that space, and in the moment that you sit there and it's time for you to go forward, you say you got to go put some other shit first. You have to make the decree. Here's the thing. You're not putting anything that you put before your internal work, dealing with self, is based on the perception of preserving the circumstance. It's on the preserving of the perception of your circumstances. That means that circumstance or that wound or what's being anchored from that shadow must stay in play. You get in that good job, the good relationship as an example. And then while you're in your space, since you have not dealt with your own internal wounds with your father or your mother or that sexual trauma or these events in your life, in order for you to remain the identity that you are, you got to keep that shit in your space. So you got to have the homegirl that always has man problems. And when she don't have man problems, now you have to have man problems. But you have not yet understood that the only reason that these problems keep going back and forth is because of the lack of accountability for yourselves. So y'all just keep transmitting it back and forth. Nobody's transmuting it. Nobody's learning with it. Nobody's taking it in and learning it. You're just prolonging it. Well, maybe the next one. Now you're sitting there in that space for yourself. I'm this, and this hasn't happened to me yet. As I made the announcement, August 16, 2020, the unity to myself. Wasn't the final integration, but I knew it was time for me to integrate with myself. I knew I had to sit down with myself and really look at myself in that space of like, is what I'm doing in synchronization with growth, or is it in prolonging something? Am I trying to make myself be profound as an identity, Or am I coming into that aspect of me being authentic with my works? Is my shit in sync with my works? Is my shit always forcing me to grow? Is my shit forcing me to grow? Am I being forced to sit the fuck down? Am I listening to my body? Am I listening to myself? Am I listening to my inner child? In this simple existence, my inner child is my creative force or the feminine force in that space. So whenever I'm doing things, am I doing things based on creation? What am I creating? Or am I just imitating? Am I creating or am I imitating? One of the earliest things in top of the year, y'all stay tuned. If you haven't been rocking with me soon, got a Co-Alchemy was the clothing and the merchandise brand. I'm bringing that back out. I lit it, play out. I watch. Sometimes you just got to throw out ideas and see how they formulate and see how you need to adjust. So I was like, all right, that's cool. I like how that works. So now I'm going to bring that back out. But everything that you're doing, so it was like simple, like the simple aspect of, I remember watching David Banner in a podcast. He was talking about a Banner Vision gear. And he was like, yo, even if I spend all of this money in creating my brand, hey, even if I spend all of this money in creating my brand, I have a whole wardrobe that ain't nobody gonna have because I got my own name on all of my shit. That's ownership. If when you're sitting inside of a space with yourself and you're feeling this thought process go through your mind of, but what about this? But everybody, that don't exist. Every time you listen to somebody talk about this saturated, it's too many people, you're too old and all of these aspects, all of those are points that are teaching you transition. Because the moment that you hear it, it's telling you that has been perfected. That's the only way that someone can say the market is saturated. That's a point of perfection. Now I can learn the lessons and look at the market and see how it's oversaturated. 90% of the time, most of the spaces that you live inside of this emotional realm, there's no transparency. So I'm being triggered because I have not become transparent with myself yet. I don't understand what transparency is. Transparency is a part of that intimacy. Nothing that you create down here, everything that you create out down here is based on your level of transparency. So if you got expectancies and entitlements based on age, based on where you're at in your life, guess what? You're lacking transparency. Therefore, you're going to lack accountability. Therefore, that feminine presence, let's start with the ladies first. That masculine presence that's protecting and providing is going to keep pulling from the same visualization of that trauma. This is why I don't do this. This is why I'm not open. This is why I don't say this. This is why I don't act like this. This is why I don't give this. Here comes the truth to everything that you do. Here comes the truth to everything that you do. In the aspects of you setting affirmations, intentions, and everything that you do. If anything outside of you can put you into a peace, preaching. If anything outside of you can put you into a state to keep you in a state of bounding, that means you stop doing something because of something's not happening. That's not a part of your authentic current. I'll use an example. I remember when I was working in restaurants. I remember being online and everybody, like, I remember one of my homeboys, he was like, yo, that's how Los is. Every time, if Los has nothing to do, he's going to find something to do. That's his narrative. I like that about him. He taught me that. Even though he used it in his own way. Because he would motherfuckers would follow me cleaning up all the time and keeping shit out early to get out early. Even though he used it. Even though he used it in his own way with his own intentions. I can't be mad at him for using it in his own way. His shit was more prevalent with the space. That's how you understand the balances of the judgments when you inside of the space. Because when everybody started doing what I was doing for their own reasons, they were feeding of the original energy inside the space. See, when you're thinking about these spaces with yourself, what is that space rooted in? The hiring process at a job. Why do they hire motherfuckers at the job? Why they got hired? I've talked about this story in lectures before. The last place that I worked at in corporate America, the manager, my manager, the GM, he don't work there no more, literally had something on everybody inside of that space. He literally had some secret, some dirt on everybody inside of that space. So they were all attached to that space on a bond based on him having information and their fear of not dealing with that shit themselves. Me coming into that space, clear, was naturally to disrupt. I am a disruptor. That's what I am. I am disruption. Everything from, I'll use the simple, we ain't got to go too deep because we're going to deep it later on. But as we go deep, if I look at my birth cards as an example to build this illustration, my death cards are the Emperor and the Death card. Those are my birth cards. I am the Emperor of Death. Everything about me is to end cycles. It's to end and to begin. I am the end and the beginning inside of that space. So when I go into a space and I disrupt some things, it's naturally to that space. And the thing that I didn't understand about my feminine energy and what it was nurturing and guiding is it was always doing that. So every space that I went into based on my abandonment issues, guilt wounds, not getting to the roots of these wounds, not sitting at the table and assessing these demons. Everything that I was doing was based on keeping that attachment going, keeping that flow going, prolonging, dealing with myself. So now I'm thinking, I look back and every time that I said some shit out loud to people, I will always put my family first, my woman first, kids first, my nieces and nephews first. I will always put them first. I wasn't putting them first. I was putting the circumstances of my perception of how I was raised first. That's why inside of the space, when it came time for the emotional shit or the shit to be angry about, it was easier for me to react to it than the shit that was the result of that happening. All in reflection of me. Something as simple as you sitting there talking about kids don't like to study no more. Kids don't like to read no more. Kids always want to be out and about. I don't know where to get it from. They must get it from the TV. You lying to yourself. You lying to yourself. Everything outside of you is a perspective, a presumption of of what you're trying to consume. Of how you're trying to consume it. Because I can sit here and watch Black Ink Crew and psychologically analyze everybody on the damn show. Because that's my authentic where I'm at in my space. Somebody else will look at that somebody else can look at that same exact show and be like, yeah, that's why niggas is fucked up and this, and this. And will not take any accountability to themselves. Because they're not used to that. They're consuming. They don't want to understand. They don't care about the ingredients. They're consuming without understanding the ingredients. Because they don't understand the ingredients that are within inside of themselves. So you got to understand your ingredients, your track record. Just because you can I say this all the time. Just because you can do it doesn't mean that doesn't mean it works. That just means just because you can do something, it simply means that you have access to that space. Just because you can go get something, that just lets you know you have access to that space. But how you maintain your connection or your attachment, that's what you're looking for when it comes to synchronization. Because that shit's gonna make you uncomfortable as fuck. Because you can sit there and, ooh, I can go get a car every year. Cool. But how are you maintaining those cars? How are you maintaining those vehicles and the drive of those vehicles? It boils all. Well, if I don't have a car, then nobody have a ride. So now ask yourself a real question. Yes, now ask yourself a real question. Are they Are they coming to you, or are they coming to the circumstance? Are they listening? Are they around you for the circumstance, or are they around you based on synchronization of growth? What is y'all conversations? What's the table look like? I talked about it in the podcast this week. When it comes to your table, some of you cannot take seats or bring new things to your table because there's events, ideals, people, all these things at your table right now as you sitting here that are based on the prolonging of something. They're based on the prolonging of something. Nothing at your table is based on aspects of growth. Everything at your table is in the state of, I'm doing this. You have to understand there's balances. When you're coming into the aspects of your energy, understand this aspect of that balance. It's because I'm looking inside of my space. If I'm looking inside of my space and everybody's on, I'm getting to something, or I got to do this, or I got to do this, or I got to do this first, or I got to do this first. And there's less people in my space that are about I get to in a state of gratitude with themselves. Quality versus quantity. If I have 15 motherfuckers in my space saying I got to do this, and we got to do this, and we got to do this on Monday, we got to do this, and we got to do this, and I got one or two people that I see on a normal basis, not even like in a regular basis, and they're always sitting somewhere, and every time that I talk to them, it's something new. It's something that makes me think. My mindset has to switch that am I prolonging or am I in sync? Because that in sync is going to make you feel the guilt. That's what that's there for. It's going to make you feel, it's a difference between you sitting in the guilt and sitting at the table with the guilt. See, that prolonging mindset, that's you sitting at the table with your guilt. That's you sitting with the table of all of your guilt. That synchronization, that's you sitting inside of your guilt so you can understand where you learned it. That's you sitting with the insecurity and getting deep into the insecurity and realizing that your insecurity is an abandonment issue, is a self-worth issue. That the conquering mentality that you have now proclaimed to be, that you are a real nigga or a bad bitch or independent, whatever you want to be, is based on a threatening of a wound that if anybody gets too close, this vulnerability, I'm not going to be able to control it. I don't have anything to give them. That's when we think about worth. I don't have anything to give them outside of anything physical. So I'm stuck within the physical. So now I'm boiling everything down into the intimacy. Intimacy is the aspects of starting with the mentality. Intimacy is your mentality plus your emotions. That equals transparency. That's the intimacy. Your fear of letting someone your fear of somebody triggering your ass and giving you you are used to being told that you're used to getting the reflections of, ooh, you're a good person. You're great. You're awesome. You're used to motherfuckers. Think about it like this. Your mother lied to you and said it was your fault. Your mother lied to you and said that you were guilty and it was your fault. You never assessed that wound. So now inside of your current space, everybody's telling you that you are good, it's okay. They're coddling you based on you feeling guilty. But no one inside of your space is truly asking a question. Because why? You're seeking to be right. See, I had to understand I was seeking to be right. As long as I'm seeking to be right, what I visualize up here is what I have to be right about. So even if somebody says something, even if you get in an argument and you can say that, but I'm right? That's all you looking for. The moment that they agree to your terms, okay, cool. Now you're just going to prolong it. Now you go 4 or 5 months at the job, friendship, whatever it is. Nothing's being done. Because you're still looking for the visualization you're looking for it to happen the way based on your perception. The way that it happened for you. How you got stuck inside of a position. How you got stuck, how you're doing it, how you want to see it. that seeing aspect, that physical. Because you're in complacency, you're in comfort. Because you're used to the excuses that you keep putting out with yourself. So you want everybody else to subscribe to the same excuses. Everybody around you subscribing to the same excuses. There's some expectations. Everybody's subscribing to the same excuses. I'm not going to do this until I get to that point. Okay. I told you the descent is you becoming your mother, you becoming your father, you becoming your mother, your father, you becoming the child, you becoming that aspect within self, facing those aspects, your aunties, your uncles, and all them motherfuckers. Those are just variations of the mother and the father and the son aspect, cousins and all that shit. It's only a damn repeat. So the same way you get upset at your home, the same way you get upset at your cousin, your homegirl, for not taking anything seriously in their life or expecting a certain way, why are you really getting upset with them? Because you're going to keep giving them the same speech. That's when you got to get in your grind. You got to be independent. That's why I don't trust no niggas and all this shit. All because yours is the counterbalance to your mother. Because you still got that wound going on that your mother allowed a man to come in between guiding and nurturing you and avoiding the aspects of protecting and providing anything to you. You still living in that shit. So now everything that comes into your space is automatic. Every nigga that's going to come into your space is a threat. That is of the caliber of forcing you to think. Every woman that comes into your space becomes a threat. That is a caliber for facing you to think. It don't matter how they're saying it. How does it make you feel? I remember going back. I remember really looking at it. Like, I don't want no woman that's always argumentative and yelling at me and coming at me and telling me all these things. What is it triggering in you? What is it triggering in you? See, that's the accountability. What is it triggering inside of you? She has to submit to me. Have you submitted to yourself? You haven't submitted to yourself yet. You looking for submission from others and you haven't submitted to yourself? On either end of the spectrum? You looking for somebody to provide and protect you when you're not looking at what you're providing and protecting inside of self and not realizing that what they're doing is unrooting. In order for provisions and protection to be met, the terms have to be seen inside of the space. So the emotions must come. I'm providing and protecting a space to explore emotion. So naturally inside of that space, that's the baseline. That's the baseline. That's the base. That's the baseline. That's the base of it all. Everything else builds on top of that. That's the groundwork. So if you're coming into a space with yourself and you ain't done no groundwork individually, then everything that this person has done, everything that job is done and built on, that groundwork's supposed to trigger you. Your unresolved has to be solved first. You can't say, oh, I want this title when you haven't done the work during that title yet. You're not even mentally in that space. You're not even in harmony with yourself. You're not even in harmony with yourself yet. So how do you expect harmony and peace if you're still at war with yourself? You still battling your demons. What you really need is somebody that's willing to sit there. If somebody's willing to sit there and be vulnerable, I'm listening. But all you're thinking about is the price. You're thinking about the first price you ever paid. I remember going through relationships, friendships, and everything of that nature. I was thinking about the price that I already paid. That's all I would use as my aspect of myself. I would use the price that I already paid. I already did this though. I already did that though. And I've done this and I've done this. And now that this is here, now that this is here, now the regret, the guilt, the doubts, the emotional sequences that led you to doing what you did, those come to the forefront and those have to stay in play. That's why you keep getting triggered all the damn time. The moment that somebody's sitting, you're not in sync with yourself. You're in a state of prolonging whatever you've been doing. Prolonging shit takes no damn accountability. Prolonging shit is sitting there, and only when you're inside of the space based on relevance, that's when you think about it. That's when you think about it. So the moment that one of your friends is about to go back to school, or the moment that one of your friends get a new job, that's the only time you think about a job. That's the only time you think about any type of works. Yo, put me on. Yo, let me get me in there. Yeah, I've been thinking about it too, because my job ain't doing what it's supposed to do anymore. What is your job supposed to do? What is the base groundwork of your job? What is your job supposed to do? What is the definition of your job? Not the definition you want to keep giving it to it. What is your job doing? What is it supposed to do? Yeah, my last friends, they weren't shit like this. They were always broke and they didn't have no money. They weren't ready to go nowhere. What does that say about you? What was that bond based on? If the bond is based on guilt, then of course they're always going to talk about guilt. People are always going to talk about guilt around you. They're always going to talk about some negative. They're always going to talk about some lower shit around you, because you need that in order to give yourself a face. See how you keep your face going? I got to keep my face. I got to keep my identity going. But the moment you get in front of a motherfucker that's divine darkness, as example, I am divine darkness. I'm the divine masculine in the darkest aspect. That means I've absorbed and absolved all light, and I create in that space. Scary as shit. You ain't ready for it. You gonna see this. Because all I do is eat. This eats for me. My subconscious eats. My subconscious eats everything and helps me distribute it. That's all it's used for. I'm always taking in new information. I'm always digesting it. I'm always in a state of observation. But the point of observation, when it starts getting shaky and the things aren't transparent, that means there's some biases I have to deal with. There's some things inside of myself that I have to deal with. This is when we talk about I love when people talk about, shadow work is, I'm starting day one of shadow work. Don't put days on shadow work. Don't say day one of shadow work. Because that means you are incentivizing that there is an end to your shadow work. You are incentivizing that there's an end to your healing. You're incentivizing that there's an end to it. That's how most of us get stuck in the patterns that we get stuck in, is because we're coming from a state of incentive. That's why the moment that you sit there and start thinking in your meditation, and that chatter comes up in your meditation as an example, how long do I got to sit here and do this, this, and this? That's not what it's there for, ma'am. That's not what it's there for, sir. How long do I got to stand in front of this mirror for something to happen? That's not what it's there for, sir. That's not what it's there for, ma'am. Yo, man, I didn't burn 17 green candles and talked about I wanted to get some abundance and prosperity. I ain't got no money. That's not what it's there for, sir. What came up? The moment you started burning a green candle, what came up? Everybody called you asking about money, made you further feel disheartened. But you have to think about it. Everybody that asked you for money that made you feel guilt, that's letting you know internally the way that you define money is based upon guilt. The way that you define money is based upon an insecurity, worth, accomplishment. That's how you define money. So everybody that comes to you asking you for money is actually doing exactly what they're supposed to do. You feel guilty if you don't give it to them, or you feel bad if you feel mad when they ask you for it. Don't say this is a stinking ass $25 when I ask for it back. Let it lay where it lays. You gave that motherfucker $25. The motherfucker never calls you again. Congratulations. It only costs you $25 to find out or to remove something from your space. That's all it costs you. I'd rather pay that price than $2,000. My brother's in Alabama right now has not called me at all. I've done all forgiveness, releasing off from that shit. Motherfucker still has not called me because he still thinks that I want the $3,000 that I've made that shit multiple times. I don't care. Because I'm not using that as the definition of why I need $3,000. Every time I get money, someone gonna ask me for it. Every time someone asks me for money, someone gonna ask me for it. Okay. That's your definition of money. Your money has an in and an out. That's how you define that energy. The way it comes in is through the guilt, and the way it goes out is through guilt. So now you're seeking abundance, and you keep getting all these lessons in guilt, because now your homegirl and your homeboy is arguing about money, and that's your moment to sit there and not say anything. See, you want to sit there and be like, see, that's why you got to make sure you do this, and this, and you got this. That way you ain't got to depend on no shit like that. That shit ain't going to happen. When in reality, you looking at yourself. In reality, you need that. You looking at yourself. Man, my life is, okay. I just want something to come in. I just want something to come into my life and help me get my life in order. Okay. Define that order. What do you want that? What do you want to be? What are you trying to bring into order with yourself? That's the question you got to ask. What are you trying to bring into order with yourself? At the root of the aspect, not no surface level shit. At the root of the aspect. What do you keep putting yourself, what circumstances do you keep putting before your healing? Not realizing that your circumstances and conditions will never change until you do the internal work and work on the internal aspects. Because all of these internal aspects and conflicts give the correspondences to the shit that's going on outside of you every single day. That's what's giving you your results. That's what's giving you your conditions. That's what's giving you your circumstances. You have the decision whether to face it or try to put a door in front of that void. I'm not happy. No one can make you happy. No one's going to make you anything more than what you made for yourself. That's why whenever you're expecting some more or you feel you're entitled to more, it's only because you're not giving yourself anything. Less is more. Less is more. When I started learning that the simple process of being less involved in family functions from a space of overly projecting myself into that space based on my guilt and insecurities, it started becoming the consultant. That means, hey, if you want to talk about that, you gotta come over here. And we gonna start with the base. We gonna start at the root. I told you 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Everything that comes to you is what needs to come. That's the lesson. You think you gonna get some shit? You think you can, cause you can go ahead and go get some steroids. Go get the steroids and pump that shit up. Go ahead. Cause that's what you keep trying to do. But you're diminishing your own signature. Everything that comes up is teaching you about your energy signature, your lineage, what you are. So every time that your lineage come up, cause that's what the trauma is, that trauma, that symbol is showing you an aspect to tap into yourself, your lineage, who you are. See, you're doing things against your sequence of who you truly are. You want to be independent in a singular sense or in a neutral sense, but you can't become that singular point. So since you in that neutral sense with yourself, guess what you do? Everything floods through the neutral point. So now all of your traumas, all of your problems, all of your circumstances flow through that point to feed. Because you're not taking a singular position and taking accountability and facing those things. Redirecting this flow. That neutral aspect that has you stuck within transmitting. That singular point takes you to a point of transmuting. Hit me in the inbox. Everything that we do inside of this space, simple as my man Dawson just said, the aspects of your design. Do you know your emotional authority? Let's start there. Let's start there. Do you know your emotional authority? Do you know your design type? Like for me, I always say this, I'm a manifestor generator. I'm a dual energy being, which matches everything that I am. That means I'm able to pull things, I'm able to inform and impact, and as well as build. So I'm able to build things to match the impact and come into the alignment. So when I look at how I was impacting, what I was impacting, and I was in an alignment, that means what I was building, since I was in predeceived thoughts, everything that I built on was on predeceived foundations. I was trying to fit in everybody else's aspect of what I was. I wasn't me. I was trying to fit in the environment. You're listening to somebody like, you hear the tone of my voice right now? I didn't explore this until 5 years ago. Before I was whatever environment I was in. Based on whatever identity I need to maintain. So I lowered my tone. I can't even go back to the old tone of how I used to speak. It used to sound real nasally and whiny. My inner child's hurting shit, so I sound nasally and whiny. Or my inner child, the only time that I sounded strong was when I was angry, so I said that the masculine is aggressive. All of these aspects come into this play. And that's how you start to act inside of your space. Every time I remember the times when I was in the feminine seat. Every time I was in a feminine aspect of myself in any of my lives, I was an animal. Except for one time when I was the wolf, when I was the dark wolf galore. But that's a whole nother story. Everything that you're doing up to this point, you're gonna have to face it. That prolonging aspect. What are you prolonging? What are you putting inside of your space? What are you doing right now inside of your space in the aptitudes of your growth? Remember, growth is uncomfortable as fuck. That's why I always say this healing shit is destructive as shit. Shit ain't supposed to feel. I was thinking about it on my run. This healing shit is not supposed to be nice and all. Ooh, I feel good about myself. That means I ain't going deep enough. The same accountability is that you sitting there doing the chameleon complex. I was a chameleon, which worked with my reptilian phase. But I'm sitting inside of that space, and I'm really thinking, healing is truly a destructive process. Because healing is a level of accountability that's helping me destroy a lot of old patterns. If I'm not if I'm not dealing with a pattern, I'm not dealing with my behaviors, I'm always going to go seek somebody to coddle my behavior. And I'm always going to use some external circumstance. My last chick didn't do this. My last friends didn't do this. My mom still didn't do this. My mom, I'm disgusted with, I hate my mom. All right, I hate my mom. Let me go over to her house real quick and sit down and get her a gift. Let me sit down at my mom's house and take her to go get something to eat. Let me use that same energy and go take my mother out to eat. Let me take that same energy and go get my mother 2 fish sandwiches from McDonald's. Let me go pay homage to the altar. Let me go pay homage to the altar and keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Let me keep doing it. And then let me wonder why my life hadn't changed. Why do I still feel the doubt and the guilt? It's me. It's nobody else but me. Why am I not facing myself? Why do I fear facing myself? Am I not worthy to face myself? Am I not worthy to face myself? I'm telling everybody I'm worthy of love, but am I giving myself that love? I'm telling myself that I'm worthy of protecting. Am I giving myself the protection that I seek? I'm telling everybody that I'm this, that, and the third, and you won't regret it. But I gotta remember, I'm saying that from a space of lack. I'm saying that from my regret. I'm saying that from my guilt. I'm saying that from the space where I felt like I was cheated. Because I'm cheating myself. I'm saying it from that point. So everything that I attract is going to be based on that. And the term of duality is going to force me to do I need to change? Do I need to evolve? Do I need to learn? What do I need to learn? I said I like to learn. Or do I just simply like to repeat patterns? Okay, that's not learning, that's imitation. If what you are taking in is not forcing you to change your habits, you're not learning anything. If you go grab an astrology book, and then you stuck on your sign, you're not learning anything. Because one, there's not only 12 zodiacs. There's 36 of them. Because every zodiac has at least three different interpretations to it. 3 different degrees to it. So there's 36 zodiacs. In that simple case. So that overwhelm that you get every time you read the information is telling you to go deeper. That's why I asked the question. You got to ask that question to yourself. That flow to yourself. What are you doing? Are you in sync with where you need to be at? Are you in sync based on growth? That means you're getting real uncomfortable. Dark nights of the soul. You finding yourself out. You're finding yourself out of alignment and out of touch with yourself. You sitting there. You are literally, I said this the other day. You are literally the 31, 32-year-old at the teen club. Look at your environment and the people that are around you. It ain't even about the physical age. It's the emotional catalyst that they act at. If inside of your space, no one in your space, for example, has any evolved sense of self. If no one inside of your space has any evolved sense of self, that means they don't trigger you. They don't make you upset. They're not. Then you really got to take the thought in your mind this is a comfort zone. I feel good here. But am I getting better? I feel good. That means I'm relevant. But am I getting better? That means I'm present. When you have to sit, when we talk about this aspects of becoming present, it's the mental and the emotional. It's the spiritual, mental, and emotional aspects. So when I'm inside of a space and I'm present with my emotions, that's why I made that post. Check your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Are they in sync with prolonging or with synchronization? That means when you wake up and your first thoughts come to your mind, what are your first thoughts? You say you want to have a conversation. Who you having a conversation with? This rising, this morning for me, I woke up, I rolled out, did my meditation, and I had a whole conversation with my grandmother, conversation with my cousin, Thanking my cousin transitioned back in 2013 sometime. Thanking him for like the days back in high school and shit. That between all of the cousins and everybody protecting me, you were the one, you weren't trying to protect me. You actually told me to stand up for myself. Thanking him for that. Thanking my grandmother for the times of sitting beside her. I was just in that state of that gratitude, that flow. Just talking to him. Nice conversation. Been on 10. Energy that's changing in that space. But you got to give yourself that space. But if you're not having that conversation with yourself, I'm going to give you the key about this conversation in the beginning. You want to have a conversation with your ancestors. Grandmother, all that aspect. But it's coming through these psychological points in your mind. So you want to talk to your grandmother, but the issues with your mother come up. That's what your grandmother is telling you to deal with. You want to talk to your grandfather, but things about your father come up that you don't know. That's what's coming up. All of these points are coming up. That's the work. That's you assessing that space. But you got to sit with it. You got to deal with it. You're not doing things based on, I'm trying to run away. What are you running away from? You'll run in a circle and come right back to where you at right now. Why? But y'all know I desire y'all to be the best. As y'all saw before, I'm going to put it up there again because there's a lot of comments that have came in. Questions and support. Today's lesson. I just put that up there like that. I'm doing readings, doing nice little energy readings with y'all. Use an example. Use an example from my own experience and like using my example from an experience. I remember every time that I used to have a lot of dreams and I would fall into the astral space of my thoughts. And I remember always being followed by women in red hoods that were floating on the ground. Like, I'd be scared as shit until I realized I was like, wait, that's my counsel. That's my counsel. That's my counsel. My counsel's been following me around this entire time. I'm having whole goddamn slave narrative dreams, falling into that space, and I'm sitting there like, oh, they look scared, or they're angry, or they're lax. And I'm going to use two examples. Whenever I would see like the slaves in my dreams be like lax or happy to be slaves, and I would get upset, they were letting me know that you have to transmute that anger. It's time to transmute that anger. What are you angry about? We happy here. We're exactly where we need to be at. It's you that's not where you, it's you that's not accepted your emotions that are locked up at this point. And then when I met the angry ass slaves, and I'm feeling like sad and all these other feelings and shit, waking up in cold sweats, they're telling me like, hey, that's a point of me that I still haven't accepted on either end of that spectrum. I'm not going to wake up and make 16 posts talking about, yeah, they got us as slaves and they trying to hurt us, because that's not what that meant for me. That ain't what it meant. You got to go deeper than the surface. But as I said before, let's get some readings popped off. The link's up there. Doing the readings. Whatever the energy is telling me to read, how I'm going to do the reading, I'm going to do the reading. I got my oracle deck next to me. Y'all stay tuned for that because I got the masculine oracle deck working. I'm working on my own masculine oracle deck. That's neither here nor there. That's everywhere. But like, yeah, if you're interested within a reading, you have a question, you want to throw that question up there in the comments, let's have a nice conversation. We're feeling real good. We're feeling real great. We becoming the fucking best. We coming into synchronization with ourselves. If you sitting here watching this video right now, I can guarantee you that you're in synchronization with where you need to be at right now. Because you wouldn't even be here if you was trying to prolong the bullshit. If you're here and you feeling and your shit hitting you upside your head, it's letting you know that you've been trying to prolong shit for too goddamn long. It's time to stop that prolonging shit. It's time to stop. I want to keep doing the same thing every day and get it. That ain't gonna happen. But I'm so deserving because I did it before. That ain't gonna happen. It will happen and you'll get it based at that level. That's why I made that post Friday before I did the lecture. I was like, you will never go higher than your baby father or baby mother. Because you ain't even accepted their reason. You ain't even accepted the real reason that y'all were together. You ain't even accepted that reason yet. You still want to keep using I was young and dumb. I was misguided. I was going through things. You still want to say surface stuff. You don't want to say that your baby father accepted results from what happened to you when you were younger. So every person that you've been with has been a result of trying to gain external acceptance for what happened to you when you were younger. So now you coming to a point where your world is, oh my God, my world is falling apart. I can't seem to get any further. Nobody wants to, because you ain't giving it to yourself. You mad at your baby mother or your wife or whoever in your space. Goddamn, another failed fucking relationship. But you got to understand what was the basis of it. You went into the relationship saying that you don't need nobody. So what do you think this person's going to be? Everything that they're going to do is going to trigger you to face yourself inside of that space. Everything they do is going to trigger the shit out of you. Damn, they don't even do this. Triggering the shit out of you. They don't even upkeep this and upkeep this and do this and do this. What about you? What about you? Well, how does that correspond to your life? Well, I do this. Well, if I got to do all this, then what do I need? You ain't intimate with yourself. You ain't got that. You ain't got a sense of intimacy with yourself. You still trying to protect. You still trying to barricade some shit. This motherfucker triggering you on. This motherfucker is, the spirit has literally came down the pipeline and hit that motherfucker upside. Bing! Trigger the shit out of her. And this when we talk about lower level demons based on possession or higher level demons based on foundation. Because the lower level demons is based on possession all day. All they can do is possess shit. The higher level demons of the things that you have not yet accessed, they're based on foundation. They're the leaders. They run the pack. That's why every time you get in a relationship and it start going good, and then you go to your homegirl house and her man hitting her upside the head, and then since you're not giving her, since your voice is not there to tell her your voice isn't there, or you're keep trying to use your voice to tell her she need to leave. How are you telling her to leave? From the masculine space, because that's the acknowledgement and enforcing. What are you providing to her for her to understand that she can leave? What are you providing? Because the moment you think about it, if you're doing it if you're saying it from a space of lack, girl, you need to come stay with me for a couple of days. Now, everything that this nigga get upset with, because you only looking at it based on, you only there for highlights. Now she at your house doing the same thing she do over there. Now you starting to realize her pattern. But then you got to go deeper, because now you got to look at her pattern in y'all relationship. She do the same thing with you. She do the same thing with you. She feed the same way off of you. And that's when we get into the narcissistic supply. She's a supplier. She's a supplier to the narcissistic archetype when let's use narcissist. Or to that archetype or to that demon. She's a supplier to abuse. So she's always going to be abusive in some way, shape, or form. So now every time she triggers you, and now you can't go out, you can't have a man over, you can't. It's showing you where you're abusing your energy. If you can't do it at all times in your space, at a certain point, it's an abuse. It's abuse. You're abusing your energy in a space. That's why it's stuck in that space. That's why you feel you can't do it. Because it's an addiction. It's only on the surface. Because it has no connection to a true balance. It's based on guilt. So you do that to overshadow your guilt. You making all these moves to overshadow that shit. Don't work no more like that. Don't work no more. Don't work that way. Which leads to the card that I just pulled was reaction. As we see, he's sitting there with his hand on his chest. Right now, somebody's in a state of reaction. They're in that point of reaction. The one thing that I always say about reaction is simply comfort. So if you're finding yourself in that state of reaction, it's time for you to sit with yourself. It's time for you to sit with yourself. Time to sit down. You've been in a state of reaction your entire time. Remember, reaction is comfort. You've been in a cycle of reaction. Now you're finding that everything that you used to react to is falling away. Everything that you used to react to is now falling away. It's not doing, whether it's the friendship, the relationship, you're in a relationship right now and the nigga does not react the way he used to react. Preach. Thank you. He does not react the way the other niggas used to react. That nigga is, you go out with your homegirls or whatever, and you say you going out, and this nigga says, okay, be safe. By the time you get back to the house, this nigga is asleep. You don't know how to react to that. Respond to it. Respond to it. Cause this motherfucker that is a uncomfortable space for you. Go take a shower. Go put your phone over there. Don't touch your phone. Go lay beside your man. Cause that motherfucker is at comfort. That nigga is displaying a level of fucking comfortableness that you ain't used to. It's time to start learning that with yourself. Because you got used to, my mans, you upset. That reaction with yourself, you upset. Matter of fact, wait 1 second. My mans, you upset. Yeah, I can keep talking from over here. My mans, you upset. Because you sat there with Shorty. And you're used to Shorty's needing some shit from you. You used to Shorty's needing some shit from you. Or you in that savior complex with yourself. And Shorty asking you, you going over and you trying to give her shit. And she's not reacting. She's not reacting in the way that you're used to. Man, she ain't, man, she there, man, but she don't be getting excited when I be going to I try to get her a gift and shit. I try to get her the bag and try to take her out to these places. Have you been to her house? Every time you talk to her on the phone, let's give this example. Every time you talk to her on the phone, what does she say she doing? Is she reading? Is she crafting some shit? What is she doing? That's your answer. Every time you go to her house, you always see books. You always see her got a book beside herself, and she watches, or you see her tablet sitting beside her, and she got a damn documentary or something playing. She reading about finances or some shit of that nature. It fall in the line because you said you were a hustler. But you're now coming into the alignment with yourself. Now you coming into the alignment with yourself of now you need foundation. The business mindset is foundation. Let's talk about it like in every goddamn hood movie that ever comes out. Every time that nigga's in the streets, he said, But I want you to be safe, and I want you just had the job. Baby, that ain't me no more. I'm in the street. This is what I met. Dumbass shit. But now because you're not used to it, because you have the Madonna whore complex, you got to keep now you're only used to delivering chaos. Because you are not used to chaos. You're used to delivering chaos, anger, doubt, insecurity into the space. That way you can run away some damn where. Now I'm running away. Now I come back. She'll miss me. She'll text me. She'll call me. You've been gone for 2 whole goddamn weeks. Every morning, she sent you a hello. I'm about to go to work. In the middle of the day, she sent you a hey, I'm going to lunch. Or I got to go take some orders to the post office. Every night she said good night and be safe. She gave you the same 3 text messages every single day. You go see a post on your Facebook, be careful when somebody's replies start getting dry. Now you took that and reversed it, and because you thinking that her shit dry, because she's not giving you the energy that you're used to, she's more evolved with herself, now you upset, now you reacting. Tell you this shit different. I don't know how many times I gotta tell you the divine masculine is different. The divine feminine is different. The divine masculine and the divine feminine are about direction. Directing and being direct direction. Direct direction is subtle. That means if I sit here and I'm looking at you and you upset, my natural rhythm to you is I'm going to ask you a question. I'll say something like, no, you're not. And I'll go on about my business. You'll be like, oh my God, what do you mean? No, I'm not. No, you're not. That ain't in your emotional credit score. You about to be happy in like 15 minutes and go sit down. And then you're going to forget about it and start thinking. You're going to overthink the whole damn thing. Damn, this nigga know me more than I know myself. Let's correct that train of thought. That nigga does not know you more than he knows yourself. That nigga does not know you more than he knows himself. Stop with that projecting. That nigga knows himself that nigga knows himself to a depth to where whenever something's set into his space, he understands that it's a projection and how to take an assessment of himself before he even says anything. Shorty coming into that space, same thing. She knows how to take that aspect of that. She knows how to assess herself before she even speaks. That way her answer always burns. It always leaves your ass thinking for a couple of days. It leaves you wandering. It leaves your ass wandering some damn where. Come back to yourself. Your home ain't even where you at. You got a crib, but that ain't your home. Your home is whatever feeds your unresolved. Yeah. Your unresolved is where your home. Anything that feeds your unresolved is your home. That's where your heart is. That's where the fragments of your heart and your soul are. Now you can't make eye contact with this nigga. Now you can't make eye contact with her because you didn't even do anything. But because you're used to always being seen as guilty as doing something to a authority, and you have not defined the authority because the authority in your life was broken, a wounded authority. Now you're in front of this new authority and you wondering the same way that you all swooning and shit, and then you wondering why you crying afterwards. Or you angry for no reason. That leads into the aspects of change. Are your reactions based on change? Which wolves are you feeding? Remember, you have not heard that story. There's 2 wolves that we all feed. This investment into this change with yourself. How are you taking the steps to invest into yourself? What steps are you taking to invest into yourself? We're not talking about surface level shit. We're talking about with true intent. And yes, you can go to the spa. Yeah. You can go to the spa. You can go to the spa and go get all nice and dolled up. But what affirmations are you? Do you got a little journal with you and you writing down affirmations and writing down your thoughts of how you feel? What are you doing inside of the space? How are you reprogramming your space? When we talk about habits, this is one aspect of change. When we talk about changing patterns, it's the negative habit or the lower is learning how to transmute that habit into something higher. That's why when I work with my clients and I give them like something like, let's say they are avid alcoholics or they have an addiction complex of some sort, and I start replacing certain things, I'll be like, all right, cool. I want you to drink nothing but water. And tell me what the fuck you keep thinking about. I was hungry as hell. What were you hungry for? I was hungry for a lot of sugary shit. That's the yeast and the alcohol. You needed that stimulation. That's what you needed. That's what you've been needing. You're in seeking for stimulation. All right, cool. Let's go to the next level. Whenever you working with me, we go, yeah. You going into that, you're like, oh shit, my life is not the way I thought it used to be. My life is different. Yeah. But you gotta go past infatuation. See, true change is past the point of infatuation. True change takes you out of the state of infatuation. See, a lot of times we keep getting stuck in these infatuation phases with ourselves because we're not used to really seeing ourselves. Leads into the aspects of that 9 of coins. 9 of coins represents the end of the cycles. This is the end of a cycle. This is the end of the ground. This is time to assess. When we think about grounding, we first must look at what we are tethered to. You don't find grounding, you assess what you're tethered to. What are your old tethers? What are the emotional voids and the emotional points that you keep feeding from? It's confusing with roots. Because if one is not grounded, that means they're not assessing their roots. Therefore, to keep things in balance, now they must be tethered. Those tethers become the roots that feed their emotional reactions. So if you're finding yourself in spaces where you're acting out a lot, or in the emotional reactions, and you feeling like you want to go knock somebody upside the head between the washers and dryers and shit, those are your tethers. You're not rooted. That's why that's why you don't seem to be in balance. That's why everything seems to be real, real shaky. That's why when that infatuation of the high of the attention that comes to you, oh my God, he saw me. Oh my God, she sees me. Now you got to try to maintain what she saw. You ain't got to maintain nothing if you already in that space. That goes into the aspects of that reaction. That leads to that 3 of Wands. Celebrating this cycle. Celebrating this new flow of energy with yourself. Celebrating you in an intimate manner that is based on you. That means doing this. That means the work that you're doing. Oh my God, this is for me right now. This is what I need in my life. What are you doing? That goes into the aspects of the Tower. See, a lot of times we're afraid to celebrate. We're afraid to celebrate. I'm gonna put this. I saw this post yesterday. You gotta have the same energy to the yes that you have to the no. The same energy you get, the same energy you express based on a no, the gratitude, the thankfulness, the gratefulness, is the same energy you gotta have towards the no. Same energy. Keep that same fucking energy. You gotta have that same energy. If somebody tells me yes, I'm in gratitude, I'm grateful, I'm humbled for that opportunity. If somebody tells me no, same thing. Because when you're not accepting that, You come into the state of denial. In between yes and no is the denial. Yes and no is the maybe, yes, no, or the maybe. The maybe's always in between. The denial. And then you're going to read that based on where you're at. You're going to read that based on where you're at and not where you are. You're going to read this based on where you're at and not where you are. If you're just coming in, we're getting into the readings. It's in that reading. Go ahead and drop that. I'm doing a nice little collective right now. You get stuck in that maybe point, that denial point. And you think every denial is a no. You think every maybe is a no. But that's because that's what you say all the time. How many times if somebody asked you to go out somewhere and you were like, I maybe go out, when you knew you meant to say no? How many times did somebody say to you like, hey, you coming out, you doing this? And you say, nah, maybe. I'll think about it. Knowing you meant no. See, you ain't honoring your own damn truth. So now motherfucker coming in your space and you ain't used to that motherfucker honoring their truth, being direct. Motherfucker say no or yes or ask you, okay, cool, yeah, okay, I like that idea. What are the steps we about to take? See, you ain't used to somebody asking you what are the steps. See, all of that independence, all of that real niggaism, all of that you a god, you was all these things. Motherfucker asks you, okay, what's the steps? What steps have you taken already? So I don't overstep you. See, you used to motherfuckers overstepping you because of that guilt. You used to motherfuckers overstepping you because of guilt. Because you everything that you've done is based on, ain't nobody gonna overstep me. Ain't nobody gonna play me. So the moment that motherfucker come in that's really fucking attentive, you don't know how to act. And that make all those shits fall. That makes all the shit burn away. The shit start falling. You got to celebrate the fall just like you celebrate the ascension. I don't know how many times I'm hearing people like, I want to ascend. I want to ascend. Have you dealt with your descent yet? That's why you down here. That leads to that hermit phase. That leads to the hermit mode. Going within yourself. You can't go within yourself until you shed all the bullshit. All the bullshit that you're trying to keep going. That's the reason you cannot go into the hermit phase. Your hermit phase is not, you're not even going into a hermit. You're not going into a hermit phase. You're going into a state of isolation with yourself based on the trauma. You isolating yourself with the trauma and not dealing with it. So now you isolated or separated from things, and now you feel alone. I'm alone. Nobody understands what I'm going through. Do you understand what you're going through? Do you understand what you're going through? Are you actively seeking to understand what you're going through? Are you actively engaging in the discomfort of finding out what you're going through? Are you actively waking up with that thought process on your mind of gratitude that I need to learn these lessons and I accept what is coming to me as for what it is, not what I want it to be? Because that's how I got stuck in the first place. I got infatuated with the moves, but I never wanted to learn the steps. I got infatuated with the moves, but I never wanted to learn the steps. I got infatuated with the path, but I didn't want to look down at my feet. I'm on cloud 9, floating, but what the fuck am I tethered to that's making me not go nowhere? These are the things that you got to assess while you in the hermit stage. Because every time, this is what happens. Here's a quick example of what happens every time you in the hermit stage. The hermit stage can be, I'm about to go learn semen retention. The hermit phase can be, I'm about to go learn semen retention. I'm about to be celibate. I'm about to not do nothing because none of these niggas that are coming to me are at the level that I'm at. But you don't understand your intimacy with yourself. Every nigga that you was with Every nigga that you was with, you felt they were dominant or aggressive because it matched your unresolved anger. So you thought when the nigga got mad or upset, that's what was supposed to happen. Because you thought that was him handling you like a fucking puppy, like a doggy. But now you coming into that space, this motherfucker do, alright, alright, I'll see you when you get back. You ain't gonna ask where I'm going? Don't care. You ain't gonna ask who I'm gonna hang with? Don't care. Don't ask that question. Let me give you this key. Don't ask that question to a divine masculine energy. Because they're going to give you the answer that you do not want. They're going to give you the answer they do not want. Don't ask. If you know your friends are unhealed and you ain't none of y'all doing any internal work, and you meet a divine masculine, he's going to, if you take him to the space, he's automatically the observer inside the space. He's going to sit there and be like, so what do you think about my friends? All your friends got trust issues. Yeah, because every man that ever wronged them, they ain't got a man like you. So if that's the case, do you have trust issues? Yeah, but you're not like the other. Okay. I didn't ask that. Let's go deeper. Where's your accountability in your trust issues? Why do you have trust issues? No. That's not why you have, that is an effect that's an effect from the original causes of why you have trust issues. I would like to know, what are your trust issues? These are the conversations that I have in sessions all the fucking time. That leads into the aspects of the 8 of coins. The infinite works in your enlightenment. The infinite works in your enlightenment. The infinite works in you building. The infinite works. We're talking, if you just coming in, I'm doing a collective reading. If you want to get more personal, we read your energy. I read your energy into the space. I'm going to tell you to breathe, and then I'm going to tell you to breathe and hold on. Tell you to breathe and pull up. And when I mean pull up, fellas, we can do Kegels too. I'm going to tell you to breathe, tell you to pull up, tell you to release, and then we're going to get into it. So if you ain't here, but you're looking at your work. The works. Are your works based on prolonging, you staying in the darkness? To go into the darkness, or are you doing work based on trying to stay preserving your life? You can't be about to be 40. Talking about you a good person still. We gonna be honest. You can't be almost at that certain age and you saying you a good person and you deserving, and then you got some entitlements on the table, but you ain't doing the work to match that. Your steps do not match the moves you want to make. You got to be making those steps before the move can even be made, before the move can even become relevant. The move that you're looking for is relevant based on your entitlement. But once you start doing that internal work, that move becomes present. The move becomes present. That leads to the Empress. The best way that I use to explain the Empress is the internalized sense, or the feminine counterpart to the Hermit. The Empress deals with the internal emotions. The Empress deals with the shield, the shielding of emotions. Standing in those emotions firm with those boundaries. So ask yourself, do you have, based on the investing into these changes, assessing these cords, these tethers, these soul ties, anything that you are tethered to, are you able to celebrate the breaking of these ties and allowing things to fall so you can go deeper within inside of yourself? And changing Yet you are, the thing that you used to react to, you're not going to react to anymore. Okay, that's what leads to this. You feeling that pressure come off, and you ain't used to that pressure coming off. You were used to living in pressure. You were used to living under pressure. A lot of times, where a lot of us are used to living under pressure. You used to living under pressure. You're used to having something to make you do something. You're used to having a circumstance to react to. So since you're used to a circumstance to react to define your worth, to define your value, but in reality, you're defining your price. When we're stuck in a state of pressure, you're not defining your worth or your value. You're defining your price. The price that you're willing to pay to stay within a cycle of pressure. Your body, in a sexual aspect, you're willing to use your body to remain and keep shit under pressure. But without your body, your value is now put onto the table. Your emotions are now sitting on the table. And this is when you really got to sit there and look at yourself and really sit there and stop saying the dumb shit. It must be somebody else. That's what I'm hearing right now. It must be somebody else. It got to be somebody else. Because why else would I be denied? It got to be somebody else. It got to be somebody else. Let me go check. Let me go check her phone. Let me go check this phone. It got to be that nigga at work that she tell me never to worry. You keep creating the damn imagery in your head because it's a visualization of shit that you used to do. Because now you thinking about you connecting it to you being at work and flirting at work, and now you thinking that she doing the same shit. You think that she out and about doing the same shit you doing. All she doing is riding around. You thinking how he out there, all these chicks on him. This nigga is just riding around. This nigga is taking a walk. This nigga is chilling. But you ain't used to it because you can't visualize yourself simply being present. So there must be some type of relevant pressure. So you think in order for things to move, your pattern is to keep things under pressure. Or avoid. Either it's pressure or avoidance. There's never sitting there in the side of that presence. And that is the message being presented to you. It's time to assess. Why are you avoiding or seeking pressure, but you're never seeking resolve with self? You're under pressure with yourself. You're under avoiding with yourself. So now you stuck on one side of the spectrum. Either you're going to avoid the issue or you're going to apply pressure to the issue. The longer that I stay away, the more pressure builds. No, it don't. Because if the woman that, the chick or whatever, just like at your job, if you call out tomorrow if you call out at your job, sure there's going to be a little bit of pressure, but all they're going to do is move some shit around. All right, that means somebody got to stay a little bit later. Hey, who want to make some extra hours? There's always someone at your job want to make extra hours. And you sitting at hours like, yeah, they need me. They better give my day off. They need me. You giving yourself this false avoidance for what? It don't work. Because you go back to work. What I miss? Y'all needed me? And if a motherfucker tell you like, nah, we were good without you. I'm that boss. I was that boss. I was that supervisor that was, nah, we were good without you. I got online and danced with them a little bit. I helped them serve some tables. We were good. So y'all didn't need me? Broke you. You already broke it. I'm just exposing your crack. Oh, you broke. There it is. There's the crack. They didn't need you. Nobody needed a ride? Nah. Nobody needed this? Nah. You see how you keep projecting circumstance? Because you don't want to take in your lesson? That leads to the sun. That leads to the sun. That leads to the soul. That leads to the fractures. The message that's coming through right now is it's time for you to assess where you have been fractured, where your fractures are at. That last relationship or the current relationship is letting you know is guidance to your next fracture. Your next, let's use Zelda as an example, is leading you to the next piece of the Triforce. Can't keep running away from it. That nigga exposed every one of your daddy issues. That shorty exposed every one of your daddy issues, your mama issues. That shorty exposed everything and sat there. And sat there with you. And just sat there. And bringing that shit up on your ass. They just sat there. And sat there with you in that space. Heard, I will try not to. Alright, we won't. But now you looking at that space with yourself of where you at now compared to where you used to be. Motherfucker told you like, yo, you got a real addiction to some shit. Like, what about self-love to you? What do I need? What do I need to do that? So, what do I need to be intimate with? Because you are not deep enough inside of intimacy with yourself. What do I need that? If you don't know you, and if you don't know you, do you know? Fun fact: do you know that the woman's orgasm? Yes, I've been studying this shit because we're gonna get deep into this on Friday during the next lecture. Do you know that the female orgasm, similar to the male ejaculation or orgasm, is based on the work done by the woman and just sex to the man? So if you're expecting the nigga to get yours, literally every time Bernie Mac said, you better get yours because I'm going to get mine, it's based on your work. It's based on your work. See, you were used to, let's get into that too. Let's get into it. You were used to, when you were stressed out, get your back blown out. You were used to, when you were stressed out, get your shit sucked. You were used to pressure being built in order to create the union. So naturally, when that unification isn't happening, now it's more pressure. But the pressure's always been present. You just ain't been dealing with it. You just wanted to transmit or transfer the pressure over to somebody else. You ain't transmuting it. That leads to that two of coins. Let's talk about that balance. If you are not familiar with how I do readings, I don't need the cards. I just use the cards to illustrate it. Because I'm being told to pull a oracle card next. Looking at the aspects of your balances. Where are you at right now with yourself? Where are you at right now with yourself? When it comes to your works, are your works in alignment with, are the steps of your works in alignment with where you're trying to be present? Or are they based on the past of where you're trying to fix? You cannot fix the past in the past. The past cannot be fixed. The past can only be assessed in the present. The only thing that is in the past is the lesson, is the emotional underline, the sequence, the signature. You must bring that signature to the present in order to assess the balance. You do not find balance. You assess what's on your scales. You do not find peace. You assess the conflicts that keep you from sitting in your presence of your peace. You do not find these things. They are already present and already working. You do not find abundance. You are already abundant. But if your life has been based on guilt because of trauma, then you are abundant inside of guilt and regret. Therefore, everything in your space must be guilt and regrets. It must stay that way. because you are used to the abundance of guilt and regrets. That's how you learned under pressure to keep doing what you're doing. So when the pressure is not being put on you, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do with that free space, which goes back to the first two questions that I asked in the beginning of this live. Ladies, what is your masculine energy providing and protecting, or protecting and providing a space for when it comes to you dealing with your emotions? Fellas, what is your energy, your feminine energy, nurturing and guiding in the aspect of the space of yourself? What is it doing? If you don't understand that aspect, or you're not getting intimate with that aspect, I have one suggestion. Go back, listen to this. Go to my YouTube channel. Go to my TikTok page. Go to my TikTok. Go up and down my page. And then, if you are ready, that's why I have appeared. It's time to do that fucking work. Don't say to yourself, but I can't. Okay. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. That's you further shutting yourself down from investing into the discomfort of self. Because just like in that same instance that you say you don't have, or you don't have this, or this isn't present, or I can't do this, guess what else is going to pop up? Something to help you soothe the pain. Something to help you soothe the pain. I'm not about soothing pain. I'm going to pull 3 more cards. Harmony is in the aspects of the love of yourself. It's time to find that love with yourself. It's time to find the love with that innocence. That goes into the Knave of Wands. This is your opportunity to use this energy that is now coming up based on, you used to be a reaction based on pressure, and force it to crack the rib cage and go within. And one more card. Let's pull one more. Because until you do that, that's why you in suspense now. That's why you don't know which way to go right now. You in suspense right now. I don't know whether to go that way or that way. Either way is the lesson. Let me make it easy for you. Either way that you go, there will be lessons. Either way that you go, there will be lessons. Either way that you go, there's going to be the lessons. There's going to be the shit that you need to learn on either end of your path. Whether you want to go into your left, that is into your darkness, or stay within to your right and go into a state of observing what you've been doing. The left hand can use the right hand, but the right hand can never know what the left hand is doing. This is the harmony and the balance. The left hand can use of the right hand, but the right hand can never know what the left hand is doing. Because the left hand creates the path for the right. The left hand creates the path of what is right. It creates the direction. So it's time to take that assessment of what is in your hand, right hand, and bring it into that darkness and help you go into that left. I got a mean left. I got a mean left. It's mean. But I also got that mean unorthodox right. See, this is when you understand how to use both sides of yourself in dual. You are not trying to stay within duality. That's all. You're not doing this to, I'm in duality. You can't assess the shit in duality from duality. That's how a lot of y'all keep getting fucked up. You can't assess the shit in duality in duality. You either are below it, looking at it like, God damn, that shit's heavy, or you're above it, looking at it like, God damn, that shit's heavy. Either way, you're going to have the same response, as above, so below, as within, as without. But that was today's lesson. As I always say, if you're not familiar with it, I always say 3 things. You got to go in 3 deep. First thing, you got to go in 3 deep. Understand that this healing is destructive. You are deserving, but you are not entitled. And the level of shit of honesty and accountability you're going to have to take is going to shatter all those entitlements and expectations so you can get to the root, to the source. That is the greatest version of yourself. I enjoy y'all coming through. I appreciate y'all for stopping through. Everything from services with me, everything from readings, consultations, human designs, natal chart analysis, or other services that I do not announce, but we can talk about it. We said it from there. It starts today. Today is your beginning. Stop looking for an end. Today is your beginning. What are you going to do in this state of your beginning? This is your beginning. You already went through the ending when you came here. You've been running away from your beginning the entire time. It's time to switch off the light. It's time to switch off the light and sit with yourself. But as always, I desire you to be the fucking best. I'll see a lot of y'all soon. I love you. We love us. Ashe.